Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this online event dedicated to the pharmaceuticals and wastewater. My name is Sandra Krop, and I'm moderator for today's discussion that will follow after a couple of presentations. But I'm very happy that today we are here so many from so many different fields, and thank you for joining us and finding time for it. I need to inform that this event is organized by the EU-funded project, Interreg Latvia-Lithuania program project, Pharmaceuticals in Wastewater Levels, Impacts and Reduction. And this online event will be recorded, and also some photographs will be taken during this event. So if some of you do not want to be filmed, please let us know. And then the only thing you need to do is to switch off your camera. But otherwise, we are really happy to see you here in next 2 hours. And as already mentioned, after a couple of presentations, there will be panel discussion, which will be focused on current situation of pharmaceuticals in wastewater and also environment around us, and what are the current initiatives to try to reduce impact on these pharmaceuticals, and what is the monitoring and management issues around all this. So we will have guests here and experts from Latvia and Lithuania, so please stay with us also after 1.5 hours as well. You can also take part in this panel discussion by asking questions, and then you can do it in 2 ways. Either raise your virtual hand, and then I will see that and let you ask directly a question to the speakers, or you just write it in written form in our comment section in this Zoom platform. So, but first, let's see what we already know about pharmaceuticals and wastewater treatment plants, and what do we have and what do not have still to really minimize the impact of pharmaceuticals and wastewater. And that's why the first presentation I would like to ask Ieva Putna-Nīmane from Institute of Aquatic Ecology in Latvia to give a few words about the MEDWwater project and its activities. So we will find out interesting things about what we can expect from this project in nearest future already and right now. So Ieva, if you're ready, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for introduction. And I'll try to share my screen. So I will tell about the project we are having with Lithuania and what are the main aims, how we get to it, what was the reasons, and also what we will do in few words. And other presenters will tell a bit more. So this project came quite a long way for approval, because actually the call was in 2019 for the projects and so on for Latvia-Lithuania Interreg call, and 42 projects from 91 was approved, and including this one, the MEDWwater. But it was approved with condition fulfillment, and it took quite long while we fulfilled all the conditions. And now it started in February in 2021. And the project ends in the end of next year, and we have 4 reporting periods, so 2 years of cooperation. In the consortium, we are 6 project partners. Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology as a lead partner, Kurzeme Planning Region, Latvian Environment, Geology, Meteorology Center, Klaipēda University, and State Medicine Agencies of Latvia and Lithuania. And we also do have 8 associated organizations that forms advisory board. And they are Ministry of Environment of Republic of Lithuania, Environmental Protection Agency of Lithuania, Lithuanian Water Suppliers Association, Ministry of Environment Protection and Regional Development of Republic of Latvia, Zemgale Planning Region, Latgale Planning Region, and LTD Daugavpils ūdens and LTD Liepājas ūdens. And we are really thankful for supporting us during the proposal and also now during the implementation of the project. Why pharmaceuticals? As you know, active pharmaceutical ingredients are designed to be biologically active. So they act active in our bodies and also in the environment and animals living in the environment. They are potentially harmful when they are in the environment. Some are shown to have adverse effects on crustaceans, fish, and mammals. And we also should take into account that they usually act in the environment as a mixtures. So basically, they are a cocktail of active pharmaceutical substances that act to the environment. And we should work together in a strategic way. And I think that our consortium and also advisory board are quite strong, and we will accomplish our goals. The project aims to decrease emission and adverse effect of active pharmaceutical ingredients in Latvia in Lithuania. We will suggest practical ways to decrease emissions, and we will definitely work on knowledge transfer. The project specific objective is cross-border cooperation between research institutions and national, public and regional institutions to increase knowledge and experience and serve to shape policy and specific measures dealing with pharmaceuticals in both countries. We will develop strategic recommendations targeted to support future prioritization and development of policy measures for the reduction of pharmaceuticals and other micropollutants in the environment by improving integration and efficiency in environmental research management. What was the history of this project? And basically, it's based on two projects. The Morpheus model areas for removal of pharmaceutical substances in the South Baltic. It was Interreg South Baltic project, and the CV Pharma, clear waters from pharmaceuticals, and it was Interreg Baltic Sea region project. And when we see the partners there, in Morpheus there were Sweden, Germany, Poland and Lithuania, while in CV Pharma there were almost all Baltic Sea countries except Lithuania. So at some point we came together and decided we need to work together to improve environmental quality. In the project we do have 5 work packages, the management of course, then 3 implementation work packages called consumption and risks of active pharmaceutical substances in program area, pharmaceutical loads in wastewater treatment plant systems and relevant water bodies, strategic approaches to the reduction of active pharmaceutical ingredient discharges from wastewater treatment plants, and communication activities. The main outputs basically are come from 3 implementation activities, and they are number of organizations supported by developing a priority list of wastewater treatment plants for future upgrading depending on active pharmaceutical ingredient pollution loads and contamination status of receiving water bodies. Number of organizations supported by developing a list of priority pharmaceuticals for further monitoring in program area. A number of organizations supported by strategic recommendations for wastewater treatment plants for safe removal of pharmaceuticals and list of pharmaceuticals to be monitored. And what is also quite important in communication activities, we will be implemented in order to raise awareness in society about importance of proper disposal of unused medicine and how it's done properly, and possible harm of active pharmaceutical ingredients and their way of action. As we think that one of the main pollutant, and definitely it is the main pollutant, is human being. So, and if we use pharmaceuticals, we metabolize it, but if we use it improperly or discharge it improperly, we directly put them in the environment. So it's really important to raise awareness in society about how active pharmaceuticals actually work and what harm can be done to them. What is one of the first implementation activities regarding consumption and risks of active pharmaceutical substances in program area? And the main objective of the activity is to obtain up-to-date information on the occurrence and risk of active pharmaceutical substances in LATLIT program area. And the main output of the activity is number of organizations supported by developing a list of priority pharmaceuticals for further monitoring in program area. And how we will achieve this output, it will be done in 3 activities. The first one is the mapping, prescription and consumption of pharmaceuticals in LATLIT program urban areas. And we also will use to define the pharmaceuticals that are important in LATLIT. We will use the project reports and they will give input in this activity from CV Pharma and Morpheus. We will create database of active pharmaceutical ingredient consumption based on prescription and consumption data. And as it's quite hard to detect whether a human really uses the medicine that are prescribed to him, we will actually use the sales data. And it will be done with the huge input from the state medicine agencies that are partners in the consortium and the project. And we will create report on pharmaceutical consumption and potential loads of inlet waters of wastewater treatment plants. The report will give an overview about consumption amounts of pharmaceuticals, thereby contributing to a more complete picture of consumption habits and providing more precise view of possible active pharmaceutical ingredient volumes received by wastewater treatment plants. Second activity to achieve the output is ecotoxicity data screening of selected pharmaceuticals based on the analysis of consumption patterns. We will create a list of selected APIs that is more harmful for the environment. Risk coefficient database will be created from the input from detected active pharmaceutical ingredients in Latvia and Lithuania. And we will create report based on risk coefficient database by describing environmental risks of active pharmaceutical ingredients in Latvia-Lithuania program territory. The third one, we will select potentially relevant pharmaceuticals for future monitoring purposes. And we will create guidances. In the first part, there will be like a draft guidances, but then in the end of the project, we will create future monitoring based on guidances for future monitoring based on final criteria for and preparation of pharmaceutical list for the monitoring. And in the beginning, that's all from my side. And if you have any questions, you can ask now or in the end during the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ieva, for your presentation. And indeed, how she mentioned, you can right now ask any question if you have short question where you want to specify some things. Otherwise, please feel free to do it after a short break, what we will have in our panel discussion. So as far as I know, there are no written questions right now, but thank you, Ieva. So you can see that a lot of things will be done and a lot of things are coming, but more about what exactly will be researched in these wastewaters and what is MEDWwater and how it will look like. I would like now ask Sergei Susderlev from Klaipėda University, a researcher at Klaipėda University, to give his presentation, and he will focus on wastewater treatment plants and active pharmaceutical ingredients. So Sergei, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandra, for a nice introduction. I will now try to share my screen. Okay. So one more time, a very good afternoon to all of you who has registered to this MEDWwater project event. My name is Sergei Suzdalev, and I'm the researcher in Klaipėda University Marine Research Institute, which is one of the project partners in the MEDWwater initiative. And actually, within this project, we have a very clear and precise task. We will work mostly on the evaluation of the pharmaceuticals loads in the chosen wastewater treatment plants, and also relevant water bodies in the Lithuania and Latvia. And during this brief presentation, I would like to present some very basic information about where and what exactly this project will look for, and some very preliminary results which already are in place. But maybe I will start with a bit with the basic facts, even though Eva has already mentioned that the problematic for pharmaceuticals is quite well known during the last several years. I think we need to talk about it again and again, and to stress that actually pharmaceuticals are essential for human health. It's quite a good idea, but for the time being, it's also quite obvious that pharmaceuticals should be treated as a micropollutants, meaning that they have actually some problematic issues, and we also need additionally to talk about arising environmental concerns due to their potential negative effects. We also need to consider that currently in the market we have more than 3,000 active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is quite a challenge, especially for the project like this, when you need to choose the most relevant ones out of this huge list. And this is what we're trying to do now. And of course, we need to consider that available scientific studies has already proved that residues of various types of pharmaceuticals, they already have been detected in several environmental compartments, and their geography is quite a huge one. They cover almost each regions of the world, and the Baltic Sea in this case is not an exemption. It's quite also probably well-known fact that pharmaceuticals can enter the environment during absolutely various stages of the product life cycle. So starting from their production, and afterwards, as soon as they reach the market, they can go either to the consumers in their homes. Afterwards, as soon as most of the people maybe do not know how properly to dispose the pharmaceuticals, they can be disposed not in the right way, and afterwards go to the landfills, or just can be thrown away to the toilets. As a final destination, all in all, we can just say that that most of the pharmaceuticals, and also today is quite well known that the main pathways in any way is regarded as a discharges of untreated and treated wastewater. Therefore, as you can see in the middle of this picture, we will analyze also the most problematic, in this case, pathway, and we will work with the wastewater treatment plants. There are also several other things which probably should be treated separately. We're talking about the veterinary medicine, but it will be not the object of this particular project. But hopefully in the nearest future, also the veterinary pharmaceuticals will also be covered, maybe using the new financial mechanisms. And again, going back to the problematic of the wastewater treatment plants, again, I need to remember that in 2019, there was quite a serious document prepared by the European Commission, and it was the communication from the Commission to the European Parliament, which dealt actually with the European Union strategic approach with regard to pharmaceuticals in the environment. And again, it was stressed that the discharge of effluent from urban wastewater treatment plants is one of the main pathways of pharmaceuticals going to the environment, and that this effluents actually can contain the extruded pharmaceuticals and also unused pharmaceuticals, which are, as already mentioned before, can be thrown away into sinks and toilets, despite of the existence of collection schemes in particular countries. And there is also a very clear proposed strategic approach was suggested by the European Commission, that we do need to monitor and assess the effectiveness of current wastewater treatment plants, also to investigate the possibilities to upgrade some of them in case they are not working effectively when talking about the micropollutants. Of course, consider the possibility to use the European Union investment funds in order to invest into the new innovative technologies and improve the efficiency of removal of pharmaceuticals. Also, another important thing is the expansion of the environmental monitoring in order to select the potentially relevant pharmaceuticals and to complete the research on monitoring individual substances. And last but not least, of course, to evaluate the ecotoxicity and environmental threat that actually covers the risk assessment of particular pharmaceuticals and their impact on the environmental compartments. And of course, when talking exactly about why did we need the cooperation exactly between Latvia and Lithuania, already in 2017, there was a status report prepared, quite a detailed one, about the pharmaceutical occurrence in the Baltic Sea, which actually indicated the major data gaps, especially in Lithuania and Latvia, which mostly related to the all of the things connected to the pharmaceuticals. So we're talking about the data gaps in the identification of the sources and pathways, also lack of the sales and consumption of pharmaceuticals data, lack of information about concentrations in freshwater and wastewater systems. Also, if we talk about the maybe political approach, it was kind of also observed that currently both countries lacks a common approach to tackle the pharmaceuticals related problems. Of course, the problem is quite a new one, but still it's a clear gap. And nor in Lithuania, neither in Latvia, there are no actually national strategies which directly concerns the pharmaceuticals and micropollutants issues, and also no relevant pharmaceuticals which can be suggested for monitoring, which is based on the consumption data, on the toxicity, reliability, and comparability of the available monitoring. So this was one of the main reasons why the MEDWwater was initiated, that it has started finally, and that now we are trying exactly during quite a short period of time, only during the 2 years, and even the deadline is now, it's not even 2 years, but also 1.5 years left. We need to make a great amount of job and to cover all these data gaps. So as mentioned before, we will lead the work package within MEDWwater initiatives, which is dealing with the loads. And this work package has a very clear objective. So we're seeking to obtain a new knowledge on the actual loads of particular pharmaceuticals, which we need to select at chosen municipal wastewater treatment plants. So what and where? So pharmaceuticals at chosen municipal wastewater treatment plants. And also, of course, the relevant surface water bodies, which are acting as the recipients of the treated wastewaters. And additionally, also try to indicate the undesired impacts of chosen pharmaceuticals on the ecosystems. So we have already started some of the activities. As you can see, we have defined 6 different activities in this work package. So we have started with a selection and mapping of the wastewater treatment plants, which should be analyzed in more detail. Also, now we are preparing for the arrangement of first sampling campaign during the summer season. The second one will be in winter this year. Afterwards, we will use the available laboratory infrastructure in the Klaipėda University in order to complete the chemical analysis of collected samples and to find the concentrations of particular pharmaceuticals in the collected samples. Additionally, we will send some samples for the ecotoxicity testing purposes to the Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology. Afterwards, we will need, of course, to work very hard in order to complete the detailed data analysis, both regarding consumption, regarding loads, evaluate the discharges to water bodies, what are the loads which actually environmental water bodies get out of the wastewater treatment plants. And finally, again, according to the existing data, according to the analyzed data, to develop or to suggest the criteria and to select maybe one or several of the chosen wastewater treatment plants, which potentially should be upgraded in the nearest future with the advanced treatment technologies. So some of the questions and already available answers. So where, and this is when we're talking about the wastewater treatment plant selection criteria, we're working for almost 1 month in order to develop the selection criteria so that we could choose relevant wastewater treatment plants in both countries where we'll want to work further and to find out how they are dealing with the micropollutants and especially with pharmaceuticals. And as you can see, there are several criteria which we were considering. Of course, we're mostly talking about the quite a big wastewater treatment plants according to urban wastewater directive, and the wastewater treatment plants which should be on the list actually should be quite a big and exactly more than 2,000 population equivalent. Of course, as we are working together with the Latvian colleagues and in frame of Interreg Latvia-Lithuania cooperation program, we also tried to identify wastewater treatment plants which are located in Lithuania and Latvia shared river basin districts. We have some shared river districts like Venta and Lietuvā, and of course also we have some 2 exemptions both in Lithuania and Latvia. In Lithuania we have also chosen like very interesting objects is Klaipėda wastewater treatment plant, which is the biggest one on the coastal region, and also creating a wastewater treatment plant which currently acts as the pilot wastewater treatment plant, trying to apply innovative treatment technology and try how it works in general. When talking about Latvia, we also have some additional wastewater treatment plants not covering the river basin districts. It's Daugavpils and Liepāja wastewater treatment plants, which just provided the interest and stressed also the importance, and they as I understand, will be happy also to join the general list of wastewater treatment plants to be further investigated. So again, there were also several additional criteria which we were looking at. For example, in Lithuania, we were also considering the wastewater treatment plants which are mentioned like needed to be upgraded in some of the national strategic environmental documents. We were considering the wastewater treatment technologies which are currently installed in the available wastewater treatment plants, also making some preliminary analysis of the monitoring data and analyzing the available figures during the last 2 or 3 years with regard to quality of the treated wastewater, also some problematic hazardous substances, not really the pharmaceutical, but also which may cause some problems for the water bodies. And again, another important criteria was the environmental sensitivity of the receiving water bodies. There are several water bodies with a high pollution risk, also having some transboundary environmental problems, and heavily modified water bodies and stuff like this. So all in all, after this agreed criteria, which was also like discussed and finally agreed with the Environmental Protection Agency and other institutions in both countries, we have managed to define 16 wastewater treatment plants which were selected for the further research. So we'll have 8 wastewater treatment plants covering more or less all the program territory in Lithuania, and also 8 wastewater treatment plants in Latvia. Currently, we're working on the preparation of a bit more detailed maps of each of the identified wastewater treatment plants with the information about main characteristics of particular object. And as you can see, also we have collected some preliminary data about each of the identified wastewater treatment plants in Latvia, with the main information regarding the capacities, the actual loads, the annual volumes, the problematic substances which were identified during the monitoring activities, information about the recipient, which was also needed in order to arrange the sampling procedure, and the state of the recipient, which also differs between the countries and between the different objects as well. And what will be done further on, as soon as we have identified the objects which we would like to work on with, we are now trying to get into the first contact with these wastewater treatment plants to discuss the possibilities to take the samples there, also to prepare kind of a questionnaire in order to collect information about the more detailed information, what is happening actually in the wastewater treatment plants, what kind of technologies they are applying, what are they using, and what do they expect. Again, we are working on the preparation of a sampling template. This is all which is needed for the implementation of the sampling campaigns. Quite soon, we will need to agree about the selection and final agreement on the sampling points. Again, we're planning to take samples in each of the wastewater treatment plants, both covering the inlet and also the samples after the treatment, and of course to investigate what is the situation in the recipient water bodies by taking samples right before or just near the discharge points, and also somewhere further on in the water bodies. And of course, for this, in order to make the analysis, we also still need to agree and to select the approximately 25 pharmaceuticals, which will be then analyzed in the wastewater, in the sludge, and also in the waters of the rivers, which acts as the recipients. So it was about the where. So now you can imagine about where we're trying to go further on, but we have also another question: what we will need to find and what we are planning to find into the wastewaters. So now we're talking about the pharmaceutical selection criteria, which, as you can see, also covers quite a big amount of information. Of course, when defining the list, we need to consider what is happening currently onto the European level. And one of the most important criteria how we are choosing the pharmaceuticals was, of course, their inclusion into the available European Union watch list for union-wide monitoring in the field of water policy. Again, another quite important issue, talking about particular both countries, we need to consider what pharmaceuticals are highly consumed on a national level, what are the biggest sales, what kind of pharmaceuticals are used and top prescribed in Latvia and Lithuania. There was additional thought and additional idea also try to the list of the investigated pharmaceuticals to include the several drugs which are related to the COVID pandemic. And you will see in a moment there on the list, there are several of the antiviral drugs included into the list. Of course, as Eva already mentioned, we are trying to use the experience of already implemented projects like Morpheus and CV Pharma, because there were some of the pharmaceuticals which were frequently detected in previous studies. And we also need to consider this, of course, and also some environmental issues like predicted no effect concentrations of particular substances, available toxicity assessment data, quantification limits, excretion rates from the wastewater treatment plants, which is available from the scientific literature, and also, of course, to consider the laboratory capacities and possibilities to analyze the substances. For instance, so far we were able also to discard some of the pharmaceuticals, especially from the watch list. We're talking about the hormones, which is quite difficult to analyze, which need some special preparations of the samples, and which is quite difficult to detect in general in the sample. Therefore, most probably they will be not on the list. But here we go. This is a very working version of the pharmaceutical list, which currently is comprising from the 23 pharmaceutical substances. As you can see in the very beginning, we have included almost all the substances, with an exception of already mentioned hormones, which are on the watch list, developed in different years. So then, quite important pharmaceuticals, most of them representing the antibiotics, which also was detected into the previous studies. Also, among the highly consumed pharmaceuticals or top prescribed in both countries, we also have detected some of the potentially interesting pharmaceuticals, and actually there are some of them like atorvastatin and perindopril, which were not treated and which were not analyzed in the previous initiatives. And we will have, in this case, we will have some new data about new pharmaceuticals and new figures, new concentrations, and new impacts. Of course, there are some pharmaceuticals which are well known for the negative effects, which were also detected earlier, like carbamazepine and ibuprofen with the paracetamol. Those last two, like ibuprofen and paracetamol, are absolutely dominating pharmaceutical substances, at least for the Lithuanian coastal wastewater treatment plants. We have detected them in quite a big amounts in a previous Morpheus project. And as mentioned, also the antiviral drugs, we have chosen 3 of them, which would be also interesting to treat and to see whether wastewater have in there some of the residues of the antiviral drugs which are directly related to COVID pandemic. So far we have 23. So as I mentioned, we're planning to have 25. And of course, this working version of the list can be still updated. And I think that during the next 1 or 2 weeks until the end of the June, this list will be finalized and agreed also with the advisory board members, and we will then can proceed with the sampling campaigns. So quite a short one, but I think I've managed to arrange everything in time. And in case you have some questions, I will try to answer them if I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergey, for your presentation. Then really panel discussion that will follow. So if you have questions, you can either ask them now or keep it for later, and then we have more time for more detailed discussion also with other experts in our, I would say, Zoom virtual studio, let's call it like this. But let's then go further. And the next speaker and presenter for us today is Maruta Veji, Senior Specialist at Latvian Environment, Geology and Meteorology Center. And Maruta will tell us more about the existing strategies of the monitoring of active pharmaceutical ingredients and advanced wastewater cleaning technology. And so Maruta, yeah, the floor is yours for your next almost half of the hour.
Okay, hello, thank you for your introduction. So I will share my screen. Maybe I can start that I am Maruta Veji from Latvian Environmental Geology and Meteorology Center, and representing the project partner number 3. And the presentation is made by me and my colleagues Aneta Kubliņa and Lauris Siņķis. I am also responsible for the work package number 3, but now I will go in detail about the work package first activity, and this will be like more detailed information on existing policies and strategies in monitoring of pharmaceuticals and advanced cleaning technologies. So you will hear more about active pharmaceutical ingredients in strategic documents, existing regulatory requirements for surface water quality monitoring, existing regulatory requirements for wastewater treatment technologies, existing regulatory requirements for wastewater monitoring, wastewater treatment plant related planning documents in Latvia and Lithuania, examples of good practices for wastewater treatment plant technologies, and also examples of good practices for reducing pharmaceuticals at the source. One of the main documents in EU level is a pharmaceutical strategy for Europe. This was adopted last year at the end of the last year, 25th of November. It primarily aims at creating a future-proof regulatory framework and supporting industry in promoting research and technologies that actually reach patients in order to fulfill their therapeutic needs while addressing market failures. The strategy is also complementary to the European Green Deal, and more particular to the zero pollution ambition for toxic-free environmental, and notably through the impact of pharmaceutical substance on the environment. Strategy recognizes negative impact of pharmaceuticals in environmental, so that the residues and waste products may enter to the environment and give negative impact to environmental. Some waste and residues may have endocrine disrupting potential. Some others may increase the risks of antimicrobial resistance. The presence of antimicrobial pharmaceuticals in water and soil may play a role in accelerating the development of resistant bacteria. The European Green Deal zero pollution ambition aims to protect both public health and ecosystems. EU action plan towards zero pollution for air, water, and soil, adopted just last month, is a key deliverable of the European Green Deal, and it sets a vision for 2050. Air, water, and soil pollution is reduced to levels no longer considered harmful to health and the natural ecosystems that respects the boundaries of our planet can cope with us creating a toxic-free environment. The EU action plan towards zero pollution for air, water, and soil, the Commission will encourage international cooperation to address the environmental risks in other countries where pharmaceutical emissions from manufacturing and other sources might contribute, among other things, to spread of antimicrobial resistance. The document what was mentioned previously by Sergei, and I think the main document for our work is this European Union strategic approach to pharmaceuticals in the environmental, what was adopted in the end of 2019. And it is developed according with the Priority Substance Directive, which requires the European Commission to develop a strategic approach to water pollution by pharmaceutical substances. And the approach covers all phases of the life cycle of pharmaceuticals, from design and production through use to disposal. The main objectives is to identify actions to be taken for further investigated to address the potential risks from pharmaceutical residues in the environment, not least to contribute to Union's action on combating antimicrobial resistance. Also, to encourage innovation, where it can help to address the risks and promote the circular economy by facilitating the recycling of resources such as water, sewage, sludge, and manure. Also, identifying remaining knowledge gaps and present possible solutions for filling them, and ensure that actions to address the risk do not jeopardize access to safe and effective pharmaceutical treatments for human patients and animals. The main actions in this strategic approach is increase awareness and promote careful use of pharmaceuticals, support the development of pharmaceutical instinctually less harmful for the environment, and promote green manufacturing. Improve environmental risk assessment and risk review, reduce wastage and improve the management of waste, expand environmental monitoring, and fill other knowledge gaps. It's also stated that pharmaceuticals persist in the environment and spread through the water and soil. It accumulates in plants or wildlife, and pharmaceuticals whose environmental concentrations are steady because of constant release may pose a risk because of their toxicity or similar properties. So next I will show some studies that show the direct effects on wildlife. From some pharmaceuticals at or even below the low concentrations found in the water and the soil. For example, male fish exposed to such concentrations of the main ingredient in the concentrative pill may become feminized as a result of its effects on the endocrine system, thus affecting the capacity of the population to reproduce. Also, fishes exposed to low concentrations of certain antidepressants have been found to change their behavior in ways that could affect their survival. For example, they don't afraid from predators. Diclofenac has been found in fish and otters, and alarm was raised several years ago over the unexpectedly lethal effect of the diclofenac on vultures in Asia, which were exposed to it via the carcasses of cattle treated with it. Also, a decline in populations of dung beetles is thought to be at least partly attributed to the use of antiparasitic pharmaceuticals, including ivermectin in livestock. Also, this has consequences for nutrient cycling and other indirect effects on ecosystems, including rare bat and bird species may also be significant. So next, I will tell you more about the existing requirements on surface water quality monitoring. So the monitoring of active pharmaceuticals are not included in parameter list to be monitoring under Priority Substances Directive. Also in Latvia, hazardous substances list not contains any pharmaceuticals. All hazardous substances and priority substances are listed in Lithuanian wastewater management regulation, but it also does not contain any pharmaceutical. What we are doing in Lithuania and Latvia is the watch list monitoring. So some of the pharmaceuticals are included in these watch lists, and by now there are already 3 Commission implementing decisions in which are also pharmaceuticals. These are included also in state monitoring programs in Lithuania. In monitoring program 2018 to 2023 at 4 monitoring stations, in Latvia in 2015-2020 and 2021-27 monitoring programs at 3 monitoring stations. Here is the whole list of the included pharmaceuticals in this watch lists. And the substances which were included in the first watch list now is discussed to be included also as priority substances in a Priority Substance Directive. Now let's talk a bit more about existing regulatory requirements for wastewater treatment technologies, and firstly for municipal wastewater treatment plants. And based on Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, the treatment requirements such parameters as suspended solids, chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, total nitrogen or total phosphorus. And the requirements differ depending on the size of particular wastewater treatment plant in terms of population equivalent. For wastewater treatment plants below 2,000 people, population equivalents, appropriate treatment is required. What does it mean, appropriate treatment? The use of such technologies and disposal systems which ensures that conformity of the receiving water body with the environmental quality requirements laid down for them and other conditions laid down in the laws and regulations regarding environmental protection. At the moment, there are ongoing discussions regarding amendments of wastewater treatment directive deemed to expand the scope of wastewater treatment directive over other emerging pollutants such as priority substances, pharmaceuticals, and microplastics, as well as probably more stringent requirements regarding the emissions of nutrients. For industry, there is a directive concerning integrated pollution prevention and control, so-called IPPC directive. It is about minimizing pollution from various industrial sources through the European Union. Operators of industrial installations operating activities covered by Annex 1 of the IPPC directive are required to obtain an environmental permit from the authorities in the EU countries. In Latvia, according to Law on Pollution, Section 20, polluting activities that are performed using the installation specified in Annex 1 to this law are Category A activities. Upon performing Category A activities, an operator shall apply the best available techniques. In Annex 1 of Law on Pollution, requiring a Category A permit, pharmaceuticals related area is installations which produce pharmaceutical products utilizing chemical or biological processes. In Lithuania, Integrated Pollution Prevention and Control, or IPPC permit, is meant for large installations, and there is also the simplified version of IPPC permit for small objects of economic activity. So it can be said that in Latvia and Lithuania, the systems are quite similar because they are based on these EU level directives. So what are the best available techniques or best available technique reference documents or BREFs? The BREFs are the series of reference documents covering as far as is practicable the industrial activities that are listed in Annex 1 to EU's IPPC directive. And it contains optimization of the production processes to decrease amounts of undesirable byproducts, recycling of solvents, separation of contaminated wastewater from less contaminated wastewater flows, and separate treatment of it. Pre-treatment of contaminated wastewater before its release to final treatment facility, and biomonitoring of effluents from active ingredients production to assess their residual toxicity, and bioindicator organisms like fish, daphnia, algae, and luminescent bacteria. BREFs provide the descriptions of range of industrial processes, for example, the respective operating conditions and emission rates, and all member states are required to take these documents into account and determine the best available techniques generally or in specific cases under the directive. So the requirements of wastewater monitoring are defined in the integrated permit or polluting activity. And the requirements of wastewater monitoring might depend from the type of the operator, size of its wastewater treatment plant, technological processes, type and amount of chemicals used, and type of receiving waters. And the operators are required to report the results of self-monitoring within the annual water use survey in Latvia to water or divi ūdens, and in Lithuania it's called IVIX. And the data from the system is later used for statistical data aggregation and analysis. Amount of polluting parameters tested is rather limited. Only few emerging pollutants are tested occasionally, so there is no any information of the pharmaceuticals. One more point that we should look at it is EU legislation on medicinal products. For this, there is a new EU regulation which came in force 2019, and is the primary means for ensuring the quality, safety, and efficiency of pharmaceuticals for use in humans and animals, and their safety for environment. An environmental risk assessment is now mandatory for all applications for marketing authorization for human and veterinary medicinal products, and it is taken into account in the benefit risk assessment for the latter. Various other pieces in union legislation are directly or indirectly relevant to the production, use, or disposal of pharmaceuticals and their environmental safety. However, despite the legislation and partly because of its only recent risks to and via the environment still remains. Pharmaceuticals as products are exempt from most of the provisions under the Union's general chemical legislation, so not from restriction provisions. Substances used in the manufacture of pharmaceutical products are also exempt if they are present at final product. Those used but not present are subject to registration and evaluation provisions under REACH directive and can be subjected to authorizations and restrictions. So let's go to the national part. What is in Latvia and Lithuania? So one of the main wastewater treatment plant related planning documents in Latvia is wastewater management investment plan. In this investment plan, there is raised different problems, for example, problems related with pollution. That these are significant, that there is significant water infiltration in the sewage networks of many municipalities, even more than 50% in many municipalities. A large amount of infiltration in the sewage system can be formed from incoming rainwater, elevated groundwater, or overflowing from nearby water bodies in the sewage network. Often wastewater treatment plants are operated in a continuous mode, which make it impossible to them to be truly and extensively serviced and maintained. Problems which are related with actual hydraulic load, volume of wastewater. In many cases, it is much lower than the hydraulic load designed for the wastewater treatment plant, and it is concluded that wastewater treatment plant capacity may be insufficient in 15 agglomerations in Latvia. It is also mentioned that there are wastewater treatment plants whose expansion is justified and will be necessary in the following years. Expansion of sewage network providing 100% connection. These agglomerations will be Riga, Olaini, Ādaži, Babīte, Baloži, Ikšķili, Ozolnieks, Saldisgrīvs, Saulkrasts, Sakrunis, Miltene, Ulbraka un Viļāni. Regarding wastewater treatment plant related documents in Lithuania, there are two main documents: National Environmental Protection Strategy, what was adopted by Lithuanian Seimas or Parliament in 2015. The strategy defines the priority areas of the environmental protection policy long-term objectives up to 2030 in a vision for the Lithuanian environment, including water resources management, even up to 2050. And the second one is Water Sector Development Program for 2017-2023, approved by Lithuanian government and program implementation action plan endorsed by Ministries of Environment and Agriculture in 2017. And in this document, the specific indicators and measures are set. For example, for point sources, the following main measures are foreseen: to increase efficiency of wastewater treatment plants in 12 wastewater treatment plants, ensure that all generated wastewater is collected and treated in conformity with the established requirements, ensure the development and the modernization of wastewater infrastructure, enhance accessibility of water supply and wastewater treatment services, especially in small towns and settlements. Additional requirements will be imposed to remove nitrogen and phosphorus in wastewater from single houses and small agglomerations. At present, priority the EU investment in Lithuania is given for agglomerations with more than 2,000 inhabitants to facilitate the implementation of the urban wastewater treatment directive. So it's these are the two main documents. However, no measures are integrated in this document to implement advanced treatment for the removal of the micropollutants, also including pharmaceuticals in the wastewaters. So what we can do? Let's see some good practices of wastewater treatment technologies. So some technologies with potential to provide. Why do we need these technologies? That the problem is that common and biological treatment technologies used for treatment of urban wastewater might not be effective enough in treatment for pharmaceuticals or also priority substances. And these additional treatment technologies are needed to provide treatment of emerging pollutants. So the main techniques that are found by now to provide treatment of pharmaceuticals and priority substances are ozonation, adsorption on activated carbon or biochar, biofiltration, and or moving bed biofilter reactor. Of course, most of the methods are still in research and development or pilot stage. Each method or technology have also some disadvantages, and of course the main reason why we don't have any additional treatment is that additional treatment means additional cost. Only Switzerland can be called as country that has gone the farthest in this practice. And the country has begun a 20-year process of upgrading its most significant wastewater treatment plants to tackle such chemicals, with currently passed to the plants that are released into its lakes and rivers. And all around 100 of the country's 700 wastewater treatment plants need additional treatment. And the deadline of this implementation is rather close. After 15 years, all these 100 treatment plants should be upgraded to better treatment technologies. Of course, not the wastewater treatment plant is the polluter. Polluter are we, the people who are using the medicines, who are not treating them. So, for example, Sweden has been gone in deeper to make more awareness in a society. First of all, they have educational programs at university level for physicians, nurses, and pharmacists. And the training includes considering the environmental impacts when deciding what medicines to prescribe when handling medications and when giving instructions to patients. And also regular training of healthcare and pharmacy personnel is taken into place. There is also a lot of, not a lot of, but quite good databases of the environmental impacts of pharmaceuticals in Sweden. Two examples of these databases on with environmental information on pharmaceuticals are Pharmaceuticals in Environment, Janusinfo, and FAS. And the data from these databases are used to develop guidelines on how to consider the environmental impacts during prescription and or for other purposes such as waste handling. And in some cases, substances have been replaced by less environmentally harmful ones on the WISE list. It's like recommendations for prescription of pharmaceuticals based on scientific documentation regarding efficiency and safety, cost effectiveness, and environmental aspects. And an example of such case was the replacement of felodipine with amlodipine. And what is one more interesting thing that in Sweden, this data is used also for public procurement. For example, all the regions in Sweden have demands for the working conditions and also certain environmental considerations during the pharmaceutical production. And so these requirements are also as requirements for procurements for medicines. And of course, the biggest part is this dissemination of information to the public, and the pharmacies make information campaigns for the return of unused pharmaceuticals and leaflets with environmental impact information. And this have proven efficient in disseminating information and raising awareness. In Sweden, several pharmacy chains offer their customers bonus credits for handling unused medications, which has increased both the return rate of leftover medicine and also public awareness. And I can also mention that colleagues from Sweden said that there is also some money gaining. The clients are more in these pharmacies that are giving these bonuses for medicine leftovers. So the economics of this chain is also better. So the prescribers and also the pharmacists can also consult on alternative self-care treatments that are less harmful for the environment. In the absence of any eco-labeling of medications, one pharmacy chain in Sweden developed their own eco-label, which means choose with heart. And in 2019, this labeling was handed over to the other pharmacy trade chains in Sweden. So let's go to the conclusions of this whole documentation and legislation part. And as we can see, there is quite a lot of fresh documents at the EU level regarding pharmaceuticals, but it still takes a lot of time to implement them in national regulations. Monitoring of pharmaceuticals in the environment is very limited in both countries, Latvia and Lithuania, and most of the data on environmental levels are collected by different projects like CV Pharma, Morpheus, and now ongoing. I hope we will get many data on our project MEDWwater. Information still needed to collect in Latvia and also Lithuania to understand and then evaluate certain pharmaceuticals as regards their environmental concentrations in various sizes of wastewater treatment plants and resulting levels of risk. And by now, wastewater treatment technologies and their regulations do not cover the pharmaceuticals. Given the complexity of this issue of pharmaceuticals, as they are so many and with so different mode of action, prioritization is likely to be applied to develop strategy or plan. And as we can see, there is some good practices in European countries regarding pharmaceuticals and advanced treatment technologies for wastewater treatment plants, and Latvia and Lithuania can aim to them. And we hope that our project MEDWwater and also this work package number 3, which I'm leading, will get some more information to our about our countries and put closer this EU EU level requirements closer to our legislation. So thank you very much for your attention, and you can contact me by email. So if you have any questions, maybe some additions, you can ask now, or we can go to this discussion part. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that there's a time for questions after 10 minutes or 15. Actually, we can make a 15 minutes break and come back for this panel discussion. Thank you, Maruta, very much for your presentation. And yes, we are a bit like changing our skill, but really let's meet after 15 minutes and continue with panel discussion with the experts that will join us as well. So see you in a minute. So hello and welcome back. Nice to see you coming back shortly, and welcome to this second part of today's online event. And as I mentioned before, this part is a panel discussion which is dedicated to the topic what we can do to reduce the impact and levels of pharmaceuticals on wastewater and also in environment in general, and what is the current situation in monitoring and management issues. So let me introduce you now with our panelists. So we will hear now all three speakers from the first part, which we already heard. So we have Putna Nīmane from Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology, Sergejs Uzdalev, a researcher at University of Klaipėda, and also Maruta Vehi, senior specialist at Latvian Environment, Geology and Meteorology Center. And also I'm very happy now to welcome here Galina Garnaga-Budre, Director of Environmental Research Department at Lithuanian Environmental Protection Agency. So hello, and nice that you are joining us. Also, we will have here Ilze Bluķe, Senior Expert at State Agency of Medicines of Latvia. Hello, Ilze. Then we have here Diana Leleckaite, Senior Advisor at State Medicines Control Agency under the Ministry of Health of Republic of Lithuania. Hello, Diana. Hello. And Kristīne Ječkoviča, Executive Director of Pharmaceutical Care Association of Latvia. Kristīne, yeah, hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. So we have heard a lot already in the first part, and as well, project is just at the beginning phase. So a lot of activities will follow and a lot of gaps, fortunately, will be filled with information and data. But first, I would like to ask how much actually pharmaceuticals already, first question we have around us in environment. But before that, I would like to concentrate on this question, how much we use, and we have these unused pharmaceuticals that ends up either in pharmacies in ideally way, or in wastewater, or in just this garbage, and people just throw them away, not in a proper way. So that's why, I don't know, maybe the overall situation first I can ask to Kristīne. You have maybe some data from Latvia, how much unused medicine we have.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me in this event. I am, as you introduced me, Executive Director of Pharmaceutical Care Association of Latvia, which is a non-governmental organization that has been operating since 2008 and unites four biggest pharmaceutical companies, as you may say, chains, for which the development of pharmaceutical care of the population in Latvia is especially important. Before I start sharing with you the experience, I have a hypothetical question to everyone. What is the real goal of this project? Is it investigation of the situation, or a planned result is avoid the pollution? But before someone takes the courage to answer this, I will in few words describe the situation of the utilization of medicines in Latvia. The utilization of medicines in Latvia is a process in Latvia that, if I may express so, is in the hands of the private sector without any state support. And we consider that this fact to be quite problematic, and it doesn't in any way contribute to the orderliness of this process or to the participation of the population. We can see there a couple of problems, and I'll share with you that there are no system or regulation from the state side of this problem. The system is created from the side of professional organizations or inside in-house in the companies, in the enterprises. There are also no financial support, nor for the utilization per se, which we are doing, neither for the campaigns, for example, to ask or educate people to be responsible, as I heard, is in Sweden from the previous speakers. utilization in Latvia does only these enterprises or pharmacies who consider themselves as responsible enterprises. But this is not proactive process at all for this time. And of course, the fourth problem is that COVID situation do not help for people. People attend pharmacy more rarely and for shorter time, and there are no time left for such questions doing the safe utilization of medicines. I can also share my opinion, not only mine, but opinion of the members that speaking about what should be done. To our mind, the process will be in the right direction only then when state will take care of that. For example, choose this function as delegated to the pharmacies, and of course pay for it as for delegated functions should be. Then everybody could be sure that process is under control from the state side. Also, I know that my colleagues previously spoke with the responsible persons in different ministries in Latvia, but no progress was achieved during almost 10 years. Even there, for us, no clear information which ministry really is responsible for that. I can't see any from Ministry of Health today, so I hope then the Ministry of Environmental Issues maybe will take this question to them. So from our side, we are calling for action to solve this problem in Latvia, regulate it, and make this important for the society as it should be. And for the project, I wish that there should be also a planned result to create the regulatory system with the support, for example, of financing in the countries, which is not yet here in Latvia. And I heard that also maybe in Lithuania. I don't know about situation in Lithuania. So as pharmaceuticals are very regulated branch, the regulations need also for this issue. And of course, if it will not happen, so we could monitor it forever. Thank you for.
Thank you. Just before I give the floor to Diana, I think about Lithuania as well to comment the situation. Did I understand correct that if there will be more strict regulation, the will from pharmacies already is enough high to collect these unused pharmaceuticals and to be active taking part in this process? Or there is still really gaps in awareness raising also within these pharmacies? And
you understood correctly that there is no regulation at all. So this is only enterprises who want to be responsible. So they do it themselves. This is activity of the enterprises, but not activity of the state. If we need to control it, so that the regulations also needed, there are no system at all. Everybody does that as can be, so as they wish. So this is a real situation.
Yeah, the question actually is like, as they wish, just because they do not understand on their own the importance of this activity, or it costs money and it's a question of finances. Why to do something that is not strictly asked by?
No, of course they do understand, but as the pharmacies in Latvia is privately held, so of course it is financement, of course.
Diana, what is your point of view from Lithuanian point of view, let's say, about how much unused pharmaceuticals you have in Lithuania, and do you have different situation with this regulation?
Unfortunately, our agency did not collect this information. I have the numbers from our agency. It is that last year it was almost 30 tons collected pharmaceutical waste from Lithuanian inhabitants. So according to Lithuanian law on pharmacy, community pharmacies must accept pharmaceutical waste from the population free of charge. And this management on pharmaceutical waste collected from the public shall be paid from the state budget. But it should be worked from 2006, but in the beginning, pharmacists did this at their own expense. because compensation mechanism was not established. But from 2012, the system is working, and the amount of waste collected is growing each year. It could be a few reasons. Maybe population is more conscious in this aspect. It gets more information in media, in writing, that our people have right to come back to pharmacy and bring their relatives used medicine products or medicine products which are expired, and free of charge give it to pharmacists in pharmacy. Or it is due to polypharmacy, because our people are using a lot of pharmaceutical medicaments now, such like maybe. So
sorry.
So in short, it's all what I can say.
So people are using a lot of medicine, that's one thing. And of course, that's why this pollution will always be present if we don't treat enough well this treatment, wastewater. But at the same time, the behavior of consumers of this medicine, of course, what we heard already as a best example in Sweden. Yeah, Maruta, you mentioned Sweden as a good example for raising awareness. How about these raising awareness campaigns? Do you see that when we have campaigns, then people are more aware and they really bring back this medicine to pharmacies, or it's short-time solution and we need to focus on completely something new for informing people what to do, how to change their behavior? Maruta, you mentioned Sweden. Maybe you have something to add about Latvia and how to raise awareness, and in which sector maybe the most?
Well, I think that these regular campaigns would be the best solutions, because it is found previously that when there are some campaigns to get people to take unused medicines to the pharmacies, then the amount of the collected waste is rising. But when there is time going, this awareness is decreasing, and so it should be going time to time. Maybe Christine also wants to comment on that.
If I may, maybe I'll be more precise. That of course the way how to collect is regulated, but everybody in pharmacies and some people who are doing that, they know how to do it. But the problem is that the mass of the people, that massively they do not do that. That is the main problem I wanted to point.
I wanted to ask then to Galina, from Lithuanian perspective, maybe from these monitored substances, what is the current situation regarding these micropollutants, and particularly pharmaceuticals, if we talk about these monitored substances, and what exactly substances are analyzed, where and how? Could you please give us more overview of this situation in Lithuania?
Hello, thank you for the question. Yes, well, when we create our monitoring program, and it is for the 6 years, there are some main criteria what and how we create the list of substances to analyze. So the first one is the EU directive on priority hazardous substances. Then we include also substances from Stockholm Convention, persistent organic pollutants. Also, we have a list of national substances which we see that can be problematic in Lithuania, and also we use HELCOM recommendations to see which substances with pollutants, micropollutants, can be also relevant to add to the monitoring program. So we have a rather big list of substances of micropollutants there. But as Maruta already nicely presented today, regarding to pharmaceuticals, we have a watch list. substances, and they are included in the monitoring program in Lithuania, but only in few places. Now, as watch list substances, we have 4 places, 4 river places where we do the monitoring of them. And for example, I have some results from the 2020 year regarding pharmaceuticals, and what we have detected hormones, also clarithromycin, azithromycin, and ciprofloxacin from the list of the watch list substances there. So we are detecting them in our waters, and we also had Morpheus project with some other places where we have also checked for the substances in wastewater, and also with in water bodies in the Baltic Sea, for example. And even in the Baltic Sea, where the dilution is very high, we have detected some pharmaceuticals also there.
So the monitoring was done in wastewater treatment plants and also on these water bodies, which is like rivers in Lithuania and also Baltic Sea, you checked, right?
The wastewaters were only covered by the project, but the monitoring is covered with rivers and Baltic Sea, yes.
But the result is like we already know that there are these substances common in this environment in general. So either it's Baltic Sea or river, and we can say to people like these pharmaceuticals are really near us, and it's really big problem in Lithuania. How about Latvia? Now, Eva, you had some data about concrete rivers or concrete substances as well. Can we say the situation is similar, or we have some differences here?
I think regarding overall surface waters, Maruta will also comment, but we have detected in the CV Farm project, like where we took samples in rivers, in surface water, in sediments, and also with the soil, and surface waters after and before wastewater treatment plants. And yeah, several substances were even higher than the predicted no effect concentration, meaning the harmed environment. For example, like in Daugava and Vielu River, several these pain relief drugs were detected. Also the hormones like estrone, and antibiotics as well in surface waters, and some of veterinary medicines also in the wastewaters. And if we would talk about Daugava River, the situation was quite similar. And regarding Baltic Sea, yes, we also detect several pharmaceuticals, not much of them, especially in the surface waters, but definitely in biota and sediments. And that's meaning that we have this bioaccumulation having. So, yes.
Thank you. Maru, do you want to as well comment something additional to Eva's?
I can just tell the situation about the monitoring in Latvia. So that in state monitoring program, there are only included substances from the EU directives or decisions like watchlist decisions. And so only pharmaceuticals are in the watchlist decisions and are monitored by state financing. And we have 3 stations, as we are a bit smaller than Lithuania, and these are in Lietuvā downstream Jelgava city, Daugava downstream Daugavpils city, and Gauja downstream Valmiera city. And then in the results, we see that fortunately that we haven't found any of these substances, but when we take some project results, then we also see a little concentrations of estrogens, and it is a problem. It is a problem.
I think there are some questions coming to us already from our audience, and before I give a floor probably to Sergejs, maybe more to comment about the wastewater treatment plants, there is a question. I also want to ask, Ruta is writing, are there plans to include the metabolites of pharmaceuticals in the monitoring and environmental risk assessments? I don't know to whom to address this question. Ruta is not saying to whom, but who is feeling good to comment on this about the plans of
maybe I can, yeah, I wanted regarding in monitoring or in this project, in monitoring, in the state monitoring, or
I don't know about the, I think the question is about in general monitoring, probably state monitoring. If what, Ruta, please write more concrete question, but otherwise I think it's more in general.
I can shortly just comment to this question. There, first of all, it's a challenge to include pharmaceutical substances into monitoring, not just only having them on the watch list, and there are plans of the EU to include some of the pharmaceuticals into the priority list substance, so then countries will be obliged to include into the monitoring. And then the metabolites, I think it would be the next step already.
Yeah, Ruta just now concreted the question that it's included in this project. So Eva, that was the answer to the question about the project. The other question is about how I already mentioned wastewater treatment plants. Will there be support from EU or national funds for implementing wastewater treatment tertiary treatment like UV or peroxide ozonating? And the second question is why researchers or institutions don't communicate with large wastewater treatment plants about improving the treatment process from pharmaceutical product like private sector. I'm looking now to Sergej, maybe you want to comment as a first, and then ladies, please, if you feel free to comment something, please as well add.
Yeah, maybe I can comment a bit on this issue because actually in my presentations, when I was presenting something from the European Union strategic views on its principally, it's written quite clear that European Union asks wastewater treatment plant operators to consider the opportunities to apply for the European funds in order to install the advanced treatment technologies, which probably means that the European Union will still provide such kind of opportunity, provide special funding for the wastewater treatment operators sometime. I don't know when and how this financial mechanism will work, but still, as soon as this formulation is included into the strategic documents, I think they will provide the opportunity to wastewater treatment operators consider the possibility to install advanced treatment by using the European funds. So this is my views on these questions. Another, maybe just also to continue that, why researchers are not speaking, I think that such kind of projects exactly are dedicated to the solvement of this kind of project. I mean, with such kind of a financing between different countries or on the Baltic Sea level in general, exactly such kind of projects suggest the opportunity to speak and to include both research authorities, environmental institutions, and wastewater treatment operators, and find the solutions which should be suitable for all of them, both for the monitoring purposes and also for the potential investigations of the feasibility to install the advanced treatment technologies in the wastewater treatment plants. So I think that as soon as pharmaceutical issues are quite a new topic, all this dialogue is still very fresh. It's only started now, but with the help of such international initiatives, I think that the dialogue will be strengthened during the next years, and new solutions will definitely appear for all the stakeholder groups.
Some other comments on these communication issues or funding and support issues? Galina?
Yeah, maybe I can add something that we really do communicate with wastewater treatment plants about the treatment of wastewater, not only for pharmaceuticals, but for other micropollutants. For example, we have a big problem for phthalates. And it may be the same advanced technologies are needed to remove them from our wastewaters. So that the communication is really going on. But there, as Sergei mentioned, pharmaceuticals will be the next step in addition to other problems.
But actually, maybe you can answer which stakeholder should be the first who maybe leads this communication. Maybe there are no researchers, maybe state agencies should be the communicators to the wastewater treatment plants who really maybe do some further steps, like the communication is maybe more smooth and active. What is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think we have to act together and with the help of scientists to have a good basis and a good knowledge and information. So, and then maybe the lead should be for the state agencies to do the real work.
Christina, please.
I have two questions. One is about the communication as well. Do you plan also in this project call to action society for not polluting, for example, for this pharmaceutical utilization? Is it planned? And second question is about the mapping of prescriptions. Maybe also Ieva can answer. How do you imagine that? It will be from sales, from what point of view? Thank you.
Yes, regarding the society, we will have this communication campaign that will be with educational character. If Liana wants to be more precise, she can definitely add something. And yeah, it will be definitely the thing that, or what we want to say, that people actually are the ones who are polluting and they can act by taking care about unused medicines properly, because usually if we don't have this activity that we bring back to the pharmacies, that medicine don't disappear somewhere. So basically it still is in the environment, and then if you put a pill on the landfill or in the wastewater directly, the concentrations are quite high there. But if you take it by yourself, you metabolize it or partly metabolize, so the concentrations decrease quite a lot. And actually, we also want to inform people about like excess of using medicines. Like there is a tendency, especially in elderly people, that they use medicine more than it is necessary, and they do not metabolize it, so it goes through your organism. And this would be the one. And there will be also several activities in communication activity regarding this to raise the society, raise awareness in society. And the other question was
about the mapping of
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, in the beginning, when we wrote the project, of course, we talked also with state medicine agencies and so on, but we think that we will focus on sales data, because it's impossible to check if the medicine is prescribed to him, we cannot tackle if he's really using it, even if he's buying it, so it's kind of tricky issue. It's just to raise awareness about the action of active pharmaceutical ingredients in the environment. So we will try to tackle this issue in communication campaign. And what I want to add also, we will try to, or we already are contacting to the pharmacies. So we will create like visual things that we could place in the pharmacies, and people can see that we need to take back. We also have this hashtag, so we will try to put it everywhere. And yes, that's the issue.
And maybe I have a question back to Christine, or maybe Diana as well wants to add something. Okay, now we maybe heard that we will raise awareness, and let's imagine that people will start to really bring back all the unused medicine to pharmacies and everything is good. They are educated and aware, but what will happen if nothing changes in this regulation? And as you mentioned at the beginning, that it costs a lot maybe for pharmacies to just collect, and who then pays for this proper disposal of unused medicine, and won't be end up with this quite tricky situation that pharmacies will say we can't do nothing about this medicine that maybe people bring to us. So what is the solution from your point of view?
Yes, thank you for the question. Of course, enterprises are responsible and they will take the medicine that people will bring. But of course, the question remains. So we are in the catch-22 now. If we will not solve the issues with the state about the remuneration of this process. So now I will add that of course the regulation how to have and how to utilize the medicine, everything's okay, but our wish is to find the ears in the state side for the solving the situation with the if it comes as a massive thing, so we will need also a support from the state. That is our hope, but there is nothing happened during these years about that. We touched the problem, but we are glad about the project because we could participate, and we also can take part as pharmacies in this social campaign and campaign in the pharmacies to inform people. But also there is a connection needed with the state, and we hope that maybe this project can make a link to this maybe legislation to create for something like that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Eva wants to answer something.
I just wanted to add as well that even if the pharmacies are contacting to waste management companies, the waste management companies have to manage the waste properly. So if we don't have that in the law, they basically can bring it to the landfill. So it's on their own, like, no?
No. Everything is good in the situation if the utilization is happening, and then everything is regulated and there are no problems in this case. There are just problems from this situation that households hold the medicine at the home and do not do the things right. So there is no proactive doings. There are just some very few persons who are very responsible. They take their medicine they do not use and bring it to the pharmacy. Everything is happening from that point very well, and there are no I hope there are no situations that something is going into the land. The situation problematic is in this place where the households do not think about it at all. So there is a gap, there is a lost connection between the households and state. So we can do it ourselves, but as far as you mentioned, it costs us. So we are not, we are interested, but not so much just to solve this problem on our own shoulders. So we need to connect with state, and we need also to put some responsibility to the shoulders of the state, to our mind, of course.
Thank you. There is Arta writing to us. Pharmacies already collect unused or expired medicines from people. I think the problem is that people are not aware of the harm which they can do to environment, not utilizing them correctly. So I think that awareness campaign is really needed and necessary. So thank you, Arta, for your comment. Diana, I was looking to you previously. Do you want to comment something? Because you seems like somewhere in between these pharmacies and state agencies and ministries that are always maybe mentioned, like, oh, we need step from I don't know, regulation or legislation that says what need to be done. We need support for pharmacies that are collecting them. What is your point of view on this? Who starts with raising awareness campaigns or something else to really reduce?
I want to remind that in Lithuania, speaking about Lithuania, all management of pharmaceutical waste collected from residents is paid from the state budget. And now it is another problem from state view, because numbers are high, expenses are high, and I don't know what tendencies will be next, 5 or 10 years. If it will be very high numbers, maybe it should be done something. Why this numbers are so high? Why people pay a lot of money and are not using medicinal products properly? One thing, or maybe another thing, is advertising do their job very good, and a lot of people buying medicinal products because they are like maybe cheaper today, and they like to have some medicinal products at home. But now in Lithuania, it's not problem to go to the city and obtain some medicinal products. We have a lot of pharmacies. It's not problem, but we like to collect medicinal products at home. That's our problem, maybe.
Thank you. So yeah, I think that soon we will need to end our discussion, and there are some other aspects we even didn't touch today. But before, Maruta, you mentioned these good examples from Switzerland and Sweden. Switzerland was because of wastewater treatment plant, and Sweden because of raising awareness campaigns and activities. A question actually to all of you, and maybe Maruta can just answer the first. Do we have the best examples or practice, like we are looking for further, like to which country or to which activity that we need to implement as soon as possible here locally, either in Lithuania or Latvia? Now we heard from Lithuania, and Christina showed the finger up, so that is paid from states, so it's already good. So there are small things we can learn from our neighboring countries. What you would maybe mention as the examples we need to follow, and maybe the first steps to need to take? In which field? Either it's like in communicating with the people, or wastewater treatment plants, or legislation field.
I think that the first would be the part with the public, because it is the most cheapest way to reduce the pharmaceuticals. And the last one would be this awareness in a wastewater treatment plant, because it takes a lot of investment to reduce the pollution from there. Maybe some other wants to comment.
Sergey, before you said in your presentation that actually wastewater treatment plan is most problematic pathway. So how do you see what improvements need to be there done as soon as possible? And if that is the sector with what to start to reduce the impact?
Well, actually, yes, wastewater treatment plants used to be the main pathways. Of course, the interesting thing is that they are not guilty by it, because they got their wastewaters from households or from some industrial objects. So they do not generate these wastewaters and all what is within the wastewaters by themselves. But they are then everywhere mentioned, like they are guilty that they do not treat properly especially the micropollutants, or treat at least partly the micropollutants, and afterwards all the stuff which is still not untreated goes to the environment, goes to the rivers and other waters. And so in this case, water treatment plants are like the somewhere in between, because they are not the one who produces it, it's people who produces it. So I would agree in this case with Maruta that the most focus currently should be oriented to proper information submission to all the people who are using medicines, starting from their quite clear explanations that they do not need each time to have a pill if they are not definitely needed. Because yeah, as already mentioned also by Eva, I think sometimes it seems that elderly people are just taking these medicines because they think that they do need them, but it's not the way all the time. So I think that, yeah, actually proper information that all the stuff dealing with the pharmaceuticals actually starts in each of our homes. So each person is personally should have in mind that each used pill has already somehow contributed to this increases in the general situation in the whole country. So let's start from the people, and afterwards let's communicate with all the other stakeholder groups, as the problem itself is a very broad one and should include all the stakeholder groups which are related in one or another way to these pharmaceutical issues.
Thank you. Yeah, probably that's one part really from the problem, because if we think about this medicine that we use and metabolize, anyway, the pollution stays. Of course, the concentrations are not so high as you mentioned, all, but still wastewater treatment plants will have challenges with what to deal in nearest future for sure. Galina, maybe you wanted to as well add something, and what's your maybe perspective? Maybe you would add something from monitoring perspective to this.
Yeah, I think that, yes, Sergey is right, but the other thing that we need some legal acts. And I think the establishment of the environmental quality standards for pharmaceuticals would help. And so, but we need to wait them from the EU to establish. And so I think that will speed up the process, and all other legal acts will be built on the top. So.
Thank you. Diana, what will be your perspective, or first steps to do to improve the situation and reduce the levels of pharmaceuticals?
Information for people, for residents, and also should be from my inspectors view, should be less medicinal products advertising in media and TV. It's too much, I guess.
Okay, different aspects, something other to add. Christina, your opinion, or your maybe.
Yes, thank you. Of course, pharmacies are included in this chain, and that we need the remuneration from the state for the utilization, like for example Lithuania have. So this is very necessary. Of course, necessary is also information campaigns, but as somebody mentioned before, that if everybody will take the medicines for utilization to the pharmacies, there may happen the situation that there will be enough for one each pharmacy at this moment. So we need also a system how to help ourselves with this. So, and find the ministry in Latvia who will take responsibility for that legislation.
Thank you. Iveta here is writing in our chat, as far as I know, Switzerland introduced an annual payment for all its residents to finance upgrading of the wastewater treatment plants. So there's again question we come up with the finances and who actually pays at the end of it. And so there are countries where all residents actually do this. Eva, I wanted to ask you the final maybe question in this discussion. We are all around the Baltic Sea, and I know that all these pollutants anyway end up in the Baltic Sea. Do you have something to add from this maybe HELCOM perspective? How do they see these pharmaceutical issues and managing challenges, and how does it come that we actually act locally, and anyway all the problem goes regionally to all of us? So something maybe Lithuania will solve better than Latvia, but at the end will it matter, because maybe Latvia will pollute more than Lithuania, and maybe something that one country will do very well, the other will really reduce by their undoing things.
As I understood, you want to say everything ends up in the Baltic Sea.
More or less, yeah. No, of course, I just make it maybe too simple, but just in a big issue.
Yes, actually, I even prepared some specific information regarding the HELCOM. And actually, HELCOM emphasized that pharmaceutical residues in the Baltic Sea are causing concern, as full impact for the marine environment is still unknown. But addressing the potential environmental threat from pharmaceuticals, this kind of issue has been a long time ago in HELCOM's agenda. They had a ministerial meeting in 2013, and agreed to collect information and assess the state of contamination. And that's why there is this HELCOM API report that already Sergey showed regarding at that time existing API levels of active pharmaceutical levels. And I already mentioned that Latvia and Lithuania didn't have the data, and it was mentioned also in this report. And it also developed jointly by the marine, it was developed jointly with the HELCOM and policy area hazard. They are working together for the European Union strategy for Baltic Sea region. They have also had several studies within UNESCO emerging pollutants in water. And they, in order to follow up after this report, the findings of status report, HELCOM decided to establish expert group, CG Pharma, to provide scientific background for the regional environmental policy regarding pharmaceuticals in the environment. And they also serve as a platform for regional dialogue for various environmental issues related to pharmaceuticals. And HELCOM group cooperated with Pharmaceuticals in the Environment platform, a Baltic Sea region cooperation platform, and launched poly area hazards of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. And this cooperation platform is intended to support the implementation of projects and other activities aiming to reduce emissions of pharmaceuticals in the Baltic Sea region, as well as support regional policy development and stakeholder cooperation. So they are really interested in it, and they are already acting. And yes, it's not like working regionally only. They even support this regional cooperation in order to reduce overall API levels in the Baltic Sea.
Yes, thank you. So there seems a lot of things to do also in this project that will have a lot of challenges to face in the nearest future, and a lot of steps that really need to be taken. Thank you very much for your time and being part of this discussion. I really hope that all the challenges you mentioned already will be faced and will be really solved, like starting from raising awareness if we talk about the people who maybe use too much medicine or buy too much or maybe buy too often, and then already when using properly, maybe really disposing properly as well need to do this. I would like to remind you that in this panel discussion we had Ieva Putna-Nīmana, a researcher at Latvian Institute of Aquatic Ecology, Sergejs Uzdalev, researcher at University of Klaipēda, Maruta Vehi, senior specialist at Latvian Environmental Geology and Meteorology Center, also Galina Garnaga-Budre, director of Environmental Research Department at Lithuanian Environmental Protection Agency. Ilze Bluķe we didn't see but heard at the beginning, senior expert at State Agency of Medicine of Latvia, Diana Leckaite, senior advisor at State Medicines Control Agency under the Ministry of Health of Republic of Lithuania, and Kristine Jučkovič, executive director of Pharmaceutical Care Association of Latvia. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion and knowledge, and hope that all the data gaps that you mentioned during these hours today will be really filled in the nearest future. And good luck with the project activities. Thank you all for listening as well, and goodbye.